Hey there, everybody. It's Eternal Snowman here with another episode of BLT stuff. This morning there was the draft. So today is Saturday, and we had the BLT draft, and I wasn't there for it, but I'm really happy with how my team turned out. So I just wanted to talk about all the teams. I'm gonna break down all the other teams, and then break down my own as well. And at the end of this video, I'll be going through what I believe are my personal rankings. I'm not going to rank myself amongst them because I just don't feel like that's necessary. But um, I will be going through every other team and just looking through what they like, which players I think are going to perform well, which I think are not going to perform as well, and then what I think different like overpays or underpays are for their value that they got drafted for. So these are the teams. There's the subs here, and then just here at the bottom, there's also the price list. So I'll just go ahead and open that up so that we can look at that as well. So first, we can just go through some of the top prices. SMB going for 22K. This is no real surprise. I think SMB is one of the most guaranteed players to get a win every week, alongside some of these other names like Serene Grace and Ham. So personally, I didn't have SMB in my draft on my draft board because of two main reasons. The two doubles players that we're going for are TTTX and Cheese, who is somewhere down here, getting raised up. So because Cheese has a personal relationship with myself and Trace, we were going after him. And SMB, while he's really good, I didn't think that it would be worth the money because we have the building prowess. Like, I can build doubles at a high level. So I don't believe that he was worth all the money, and it would be better to spend that money elsewhere. We were going up to 20K for Ham. He obviously exceeded that. I believe he's like the best overall player in this tournament. I think he can pick up a win in basically any tier, so he's very valuable because of the flexibility he provides to your team, and he's able to build in basically any tier as well. I think Chaitanya is a little bit of an overpay. 20K is quite a lot. I don't even think he's guaranteed a win every week, especially against some of the other better OU players. I think that it is a pretty big mistake to go that high on Chait. I put him at, I think, maxed around 12K for me. I was pretty sure that he was going to go for more, but I didn't want to spend that much on him. Serene Grace, I believe, is probably the top 2 LC in this tournament alongside Ninja Dog. And so he's going to be worth the 19. I think he's one of the best players. Big Fungus or 100% GXC, I think, is a little bit of an overpay. He is one of the best Uberge players, but the fact that he went for the same as Mysterious M is a little bit of a question mark to me because I think Mysterious M is like quite significantly better, and also has some other flexibilities. TTTX is he is a VGC player. He finished top 8 at regionals apparently, so there was some hype going into him around that. I believe my max for him was somewhere around like 12 or 13K. But he ended up going for quite a lot. It'll be interesting to see how well he's gonna do because I think a lot of players feel, or like a lot of the people feel like he is one of the best players. Personally, I think 18K is quite a bit of an overpay because when going through his replays, it looks like he's only used one team. And also because the team that he got drafted for doesn't have the doubles building support. One of the reasons why I would be really willing to take a risk on him was because I'm confident that I could build doubles for him if I did draft him. Because unlike what most people believe about what like how close doubles and VGC are, the current state of doubles is unlike any other VGC time period. It's very much about bulky sweepers, bulky setup mons, and like Um, and yeah, so like the current state of doubles is like really awkward. And it's very different from the state of how any VGC has played in the past. Because currently the VGC format is about legendaries and stuff, so it's not very the same, not the same as doubles. And in the past, VGC, well, and in the future, VGC will always be a more offensive meta because of the fact there's only 4 mons, you can't build around everything, and it'll have a lot to do with the team selection. Because of that, doubles right now, the current meta has actually changed a lot, and it has moved towards a very bulky meta with hazards as a focal point. And I think that as doubles progresses, this will be the state of the meta for a long time because of the fact that people have realized how powerful hazards can be. And if you're not prepared for the hazard control game and play around it, as a lot of the newer top doubles players, which I know Cheese can do, as alongside like SMB and those players, and you know, like myself, I'm included in that group because I've been playing doubles at a high level for recently. I think that it's going to be very difficult to beat that because it's very different. Not saying he's a bad player though. I definitely would put him as the third doubles player in the pool. I would just put him under Cheese and SMB. That said, I think that other teams may have been considering Cheese as an activity risk or a quitting risk because he has had that reputation in the past. It's nice that we got him though because obviously we have a personal relationship and we're like friends and whatnot. So it is good that, and I'm really happy that we did manage to get him. I just feel like it is a little bit of an overpay to take a risk on the VGC player that high. He did get top 8 at Anaheim, but I also got top 16 there, so, or top 32 or whatever. I was pretty close to top cutting as well. If I had won one more game, then I would have been in the top cut. But anyway, keeping it icy, former Snorlax. Good to see that he went for a lot of money. Me and Trace both knew that he was going to go for more than our price, so we didn't have him on our board. 17.5 is going to be really high. It'll be interesting to see how well he does. I think last year we had a really good environment. It wasn't just that we just had good players, like we had a lot of good support. So I'm going to be interested to see how all these former Snorlax players will do now that they are like not on our team. We did manage to pick up a lot of the core players, like Sanjay, who went for 15.5k, which I believe is quite underpay. He went for a little bit more than last year, I believe, but managed to secure him. Obviously myself, and we got Mysterious M as well back, who 18k was actually our max on him, so it's nice that we did manage to pick him up because that gives us a lot of strength. And I believe one of our major weaknesses last year was that our tiebreak wasn't very strong. I think this year it's changed. We have a much stronger tiebreak. And so I feel like we have the strongest draft. I'll go over more of that at the end, but yeah. Attribute, I think it's a little bit of an overpay. I think compared to Trade, he's a little bit worse. A lot of the top OU players aren't really that good in this, or like the top of the OU players in BLT. I think are not that far apart. I think like Frisso is definitely like the Frisso or Ham or whoever decides to play OU will definitely, if they decide to play OU, will definitely be the best. But it'll be hard to see like the next level down being extremely consistent and being able to beat everyone else, which is why I feel like it's a lot more of a risk to take to go high on those players versus, you know, like the SMBs or Mysterious M's, who I believe will always do well no matter like what happens. Basically, they don't have like that kind of ceiling, in my opinion. Omnis Draco for 17k, I think is a bit of an well, I did say that he is a good player, but I don't really know about how good his. Well, he wants to play PU, but I'm not too sure how well it's going to go, honestly, for him. So we'll see. he is a good player, so I do have faith in him in that sense, but we'll see how well he does. Pity Pop or Terracotta Zygarde is his most known name, or Zygarde, Terracotta on Smogon, I believe. He is a really good Ubers player. I don't know what he's going to be playing because I have heard that he is not that interested in playing Ubers for this tournament, as a lot of the Ubers players are not very interested in, myself included. Um, but we will see how well he does. I do think he is a good player, though. He does have a little bit of wacky builds for um, Ubers, but I don't really know how well he does other tiers. Spitfire Arcanine 15.5, I think is quite a bit of an overpay. I don't think he's improved that much from last year. Like, he's gotten better for sure, but 15.5 really puts you in the class of elite players that you expect to go like basically X1, which probably is like 4-1 or 5-1, depending on how far you get in the playoffs. And I don't think Spitfire Arcanine is going to be capable of that. I think that if he plays RU, there's better players in the pool. I think that we'll see, but I mean, like, the fact that he went for the same price as other players like Akiko and Sanjay, I don't think that they're in the same category. Which, speaking of Akiko, Unholy Ground or Akiko Yoshino or Snowfall, I think Akiko is definitely one of the best NU players in this tournament alongside Sanjay. I do think that he is quite undervalued at 15.5. I would have been willing to go up to 18 for him, if not for the fact that he shares the same tier as Sanjay. But he is a very good player. Fajita for 14k. I think this is just an overpay. I've never been super impressed with him. Oras Mega on Smogon. I don't think he is worth 14k, just plain and simple. But he went for 14k. Galaxy Brain player is Reggie. I don't like him as a personality. That said, I do think he's a pretty good player. I don't know if he keeps up with current gens, but we'll see. And then the player manager is myself, Risto, London, Ninja Dog. Believe Raj is a player manager. Snow Zuri and the Welsh Wall. And then there's also a bunch of other players here that are not who are just bought for 12.5k. So Havens. So the doubles pool is actually very stacked this year. There's 5 players I would consider good doubles players, but it would be it depends on how many of them choose to play doubles. So it would be SMB, Havens, Cheese, TTTX, and then London. Oh, and Frisso. So that's 6 actually. Wait, SMB, Havens, Cheese, London, Frisso. Wait, I'm not sure I know how to count. But no, yeah, 6. So, I would say Havens is actually like the 5th or 6th best out of those, which is actually quite bad, if you think about it, like a little bit closer, or a little bit longer. I don't think he's that far off from the top players. I think like the drop off after the 6th spot, towards the 7th and 8th will be a lot more, because doubles is a very difficult tier for people who don't play doubles to grasp. It's very hard to understand for a lot of singles players, and you do need quite a bit of experience to be able to compete with like the best players out there. But I do think that Havens has the experience. I don't know how good he is at doubles exactly, but I do believe he's worse than some of these other players. I think he hasn't had the best showings yet, so maybe I'm wrong and he is actually as good as these other players and he can show it. I think Cheese at 12.5 is very undervalued. I do believe people kind of forget how good Cheese is at doubles. He did recently do, or his most recent big tournament was the circuit playoffs, and he managed to finish top 4 there. I know the meta has changed significantly from then, but he keeps up with it still, and we still play test matches a lot. I think he is one of the best. I think he's top 2 in this tournament. I think 12.5 is an undervalue. King of Crimea is going to be kind of similar to a lot of the times. I still don't see him that much on playing the game, so I think actually he has been more active this year. So he is a pretty good RU player. I don't know anything else beyond that. I think the RU pool this year seems like one of the weaker pools. Maybe that's why Spitfire Arcanine went for so high earlier in the draft, but like Ham is probably the best RU player. Well, actually, definitely Ham is the best RU player alongside the Welsh Wall. But I don't know about the rest. It'll be interesting to see where all the dominants fall because we don't know the final rosters and whatnot. I think depending on how you want to prioritize things, there's a lot of different avenues you can take. So yeah. X Skelly 34 went for also 12.5k. I don't know how well he'll play. I kind of went over a lot of these players. A lot of the ones towards the bottom, I have a lot of question marks about, mostly because either I haven't seen them play or they haven't shown consistency to me. So I'll just go through and just pick out a few that I want to talk about. So the first is Mikav, I believe at 11k is hugely undervalued. I think he's definitely top 3 LCers, and he should go for somewhere around 15. The fact that he went for 11 is like a highway robbery in my opinion. He is very good, and he's just been like improving a lot throughout the last year. I definitely wouldn't have rated him this high if you asked me a year ago, but he's gotten a lot of results, and I think he's shown himself to actually be a legitimate top player. I kind of saw him as a second tier LC player, which is not like as like an insult or anything. Before, I kind of saw him as below the very top tier, alongside people like myself and London and Frisso, who as like second tier LC players. I think London and Mikav have actually jumped up to that upper tier. I have not personally. I don't believe I'm as good. I think there may technically have been like another second tier formed, and then I've dropped down to that third tier. But my point is that I think that he is a very good top player. And yeah. Another steal is Dennis the Menace here for us. I think he went for quite a bit lower than I expected. I don't have that much to say about him, but I mean, we'll see how it goes. And out of the bottom players, I expected Tote to go for a little bit more. I still don't know. My biggest question mark about him is his team choice. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think he has bad teams. And some of these bottom players, like Halaman and Prince of All Talkers, I expected to go for more, but like I don't know. Like there's a lot of question marks towards the bottom. When it's like less defined how good you are based on your accomplishments and whatnot, I think it's harder for people to like really judge you and understand your accomplishments and whatnot. So it's more of a risk to be able to go higher. So I don't actually 100% know about a lot of these like players towards the bottom. So now that we've gone through most of the players, now we can talk about the teams. So my personal best team is actually the Heatrans. I think the Heatrans have picked up a really strong roster. Okay, I'm not including myself here, but I think the Heatrans have put together the best roster. They have 4 top players alongside 4 relative unknowns. Richard Pepper is not really an unknown, but less of like I don't really think he's that good, but 4 top players and then 4 mediocre players, and I think this is kind of the winning formula in my opinion. I think it's there's two ways to really do drafts. One is you can try to pursue, well, okay. There's two ways to do drafts. Okay, so the first is you try to pursue a top player and you build around quite a few like of these top players. You spend the majority of your budget, and then you have kind of complementary pieces that are cheap, and then you try to find kind of steals in the draft that are cheaper because you believe they're undervalued at whatever price they're being like currently set at. I think this is how me and Trey's approach the draft, and this is how a lot of people definitely approach the draft. The other way to approach the draft is try to draft a lot of middle lane players and then just try to outvalue everyone in each different slot. So like nobody is like a superstar on your team maybe, but or maybe you have one superstar, but a lot of your players are just very solid. I think more people took the former approach where they tried to build around like a group of star players. And if we're just looking at it that way, then the teams that succeeded the most are my own team because we got 5 top players, MJ's team who got 4 top players, and Frisso's team who got 4 top players as well. I think that the issue with this kind of idea is that you may get like a worse pool of like not your other players may have like worse results as a result, or sorry, I just like cannot form functional sentences, I guess. But like your like other your like non-star players are not going to be like the most amazing because you're spending so much of your budget on the top players. So like is that an issue? Is this like for these top teams? I believe that in the Heat trans it won't not be an issue. I think they have 4 really strong slots, and for the unknown slots, it's better for, in my opinion, if they just have kind of, even if they're not like amazing players, if they're unknowns, then it gives more confidence to me because people like Frisso and Ham can build, and Jordan, of course, and make the like top play or make the players shine that like maybe you don't think are that good. So that actually like does make a huge difference in my opinion. So because of that, I'm putting the Heat Trans as my best team. I'm putting the Alakazams as my second best team for a similar reason. They have 4 top players. Also a very strong player manager, and also a very strong okay, wait, one sec. All right, sorry. I basically believe that for a similar reason that like MJ and Ziri will be able to bring out the best of their other players as well. And it does look like their players, their other players seem to have potential, like, so interested to see how those 2 teams do, but the third team I believe is a lot less clear. So the Swamperts have 3 top players. I think that Kyther, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Kythr, is a good player, but he doesn't have a tier to play in. He won in mono last year, so it'll be interesting to see what they decide to put him in. I'm Just Gray, Pidgeot Mega, and Halamon are more of the upper tier of the cheap players, but I don't know how good they're going to do. I think they aren't spectacular. And then obviously they have TTTX and the Welshwell, so those are their kind of like star players. I kind of talked about how I believe TTTX is more of a question mark, and how Omnis Draco is also more of a question mark to me. So that's why I have them lower. I think that the Weaviles also look like a pretty good team. They took a lot of the players I had more question marks about as well, such as Chait and Peachy Clouds, which puts them under the Heatrans, and Alakazams for me. So my first tier would be the Alakazams and Heatrans as my first tier. My second tier teams which are under them, would be the Swamperts and the Weaviles, and then the rest of the other three teams. So the Blastoises, um, the Reshurams, and the Stuffles are in the bottom tier. I think that a lot of the and the Stuffles, I'll just talk about them really quickly. They picked up GXC and Akiko as their 2-star players, and they have Raj.Shoot as a manager. I think this is a huge issue because a lot of the things that separate the other teams, I would have put them in the second tier if Plaz was the player manager and not Raj.Shoot. I don't think Raj.Shoot is worth the 12.5k. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest about it. I just don't think he's that good. They've taken more of the approach that I talked about earlier, where they don't really have that many star players, and they're trying to build a solid roster all around with players like Plimsoil Punk, and Arsenine, Epic Boost. These guys that are like more towards the upper portion of the lower tier players, if you will, or like non-star players rather. I don't want to say like lower tier players as in like they're strictly worse, but like the non-star players who don't have the accomplishments. I think that a similar approach was taken for the Reshurams, in the sense that they have a lot of solid players like Mikav, Jaren, Maroon, Michelis, or however you pronounce his name, Skipken. It's just a lot of really solid players. So they could win in every single slot, but none of them have the star potential to really be at the top. And the big thing about the Reshurams is the clash between slots, because London is a top LC player, Mikav is a top LC player, but if you move London to doubles, which is what I suspect they're going to do, London is actually not a top player in doubles. He is a good doubles player, but in the context of this BLT, I don't think he's actually good enough because of, like I basically broke down the rankings earlier, I think he would be placed around 5th or 6th alongside Havens, which is actually really worrying because that's not how much you want to be paying a 12.5 slot for. And then like Carolina is like a solid player. I don't know how good he is anymore. Like P-Toad, solid maybe, but I don't know how good he is anymore. So just a lot of like potential question marks, which is like something that's really worrying. That said, they also, if they all play to their potential and play really well, they can still beat some of these other top teams because they can take advantage of the fact that they're weaker slots. Like they have weaker slots, and that like the Reshurams don't really have that many weak slots, if you will. So nothing is really like a free win against them. I still don't believe that this is a good way to approach the draft. I think especially if you like face a team that managed to get like 5-star players, or one of their non-star players is becoming a star, then it becomes much more difficult for you to win, because you have to play well in every single game, basically. And when you're outmatched in 4 of the games and you're favored in 4 of the games, generally, when you're a top player, it's much like, depending on the tier, of course, but as a top player, it's like it's much more secured for a top player to beat a mid tier player, if you will, than a mid tier player to be a lower tier player, in my opinion, because the things that make top players so good is the ability to stay on top in a lot of the cases. Not for everyone, but I believe that for a lot of the cases. And so yeah, those are my rankings. I think it's if you want to just hear it again, Heatran's number 1, Alakazam's number 2. I'll go with the Weaviles at 3rd, Swamperts at 4th, and then I'll go with the Reshurams at 5th, the Blastoises at 6th, and the Stuffles at 7th. And then I'm not ranking myself, of course, although I believe personally, just not like as an official thing, I think that we got the best draft just because we managed to pick up 5 players, 5 of the best players, like 5-star caliber players, if you will. So that's just my personal opinion on it, but it's like less like obviously objective about that because I'm not really being I mean I'm opinionated in the matter. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, leave a like or just whatever, and subscribe to this channel. And if you like this type of content, then be sure to look out for more of it because there's going to be a lot more BLT stuff going on. I'm going to be having exams in this next week, so I won't be able to have that much content coming out. But after exams end for me and I have a lot more free time during the break, I will be trying to do more content in general, not just for BLT, but just like Pokemon stuff, not Pokemon related stuff, just a bunch of different stuff. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time for another BLT recap and analysis.